Welcome to the video. Today we'll examine the financial trade-off between staying with family under restrictive conditions and moving out into your own place in a high-cost city. We'll use a structured, step-by-step approach to quantify the impact on savings, timelines, and well-being, and then help you define a plan. Let's begin and then transition into the agenda so you know exactly what's coming. Here's our roadmap for the session. First, we'll outline the dilemma. Next, we'll quantify the numbers that matter. Then, we'll map a decision flow and a savings timeline. After that, we'll cover strategies to protect your well-being if you choose to stay. We'll then compare staying versus moving. We'll reinforce learning with short quizzes. Finally, we'll summarize key takeaways and next steps. Now, let's transition into the core context of the dilemma. The dilemma centers on whether to remain living with family, possibly under restrictive or crowded conditions, to leverage drastically lower housing costs and save aggressively, or to move out for better personal space and independence, accepting a significant increase in monthly expenses. This question is especially sharp in high-cost urban areas, where market rents can consume a large fraction of take-home pay. Let's transition into a concise snapshot of the context and assumptions. We're working with the scenario of a young professional in a high-cost urban area earning approximately £2,600 per month after tax. In many such cities, moving out means rent plus council tax and utilities can consume 40 to 50% of take-home income immediately. By contrast, remaining with family can be highly subsidized and drastically reduce housing costs, allowing for rapid accumulation of savings. This sets up the core trade-off between short-term comfort and privacy versus long-term financial independence. Next, we'll quantify this with concrete numbers. This table provides illustrative budgets using a £2,600 monthly take-home figure. Under a family living scenario, a small contribution of roughly £150 to £300 and moderate non-housing costs can keep total spending between approximately £720 and £1,150, leaving potential savings ranging from about £1,450 to £1,880 per month. In contrast, moving to a studio in a high-cost city can push housing to between £1,400 and £1,600 and overall spending to around £2,065 to £2,580, which might leave between £20 and £535 available for savings. These are estimates and will vary by city and personal choices. Now, let's transition to a flowchart that helps you decide based on your priorities and tolerance for trade-offs. This flowchart begins by asking what your primary goal is over the next 12 to 24 months. If your goal is to maximize savings for a home deposit, it then checks three conditions: whether you can tolerate crowded conditions temporarily, whether your family contribution is clear and fair, and whether you have a disciplined savings plan. If all conditions are met, the recommendation is to stay with family for a defined period and target a deposit range that fits your savings rate. If any condition fails, the chart suggests reassessing boundaries and potential upgrades to make staying more viable. Alternatively, if your primary goal is improving well-being and space, the chart checks whether you have tried boundary setting or a cheaper middle ground like a house share. If you have and still find the situation untenable, the recommendation shifts to moving out, while understanding that savings will grow more slowly. A reminder is included to revisit the decision after 6 months. Next, we'll visualize how these choices affect the timeline to reach a deposit. This timeline compares how long it may take to reach a £25,000 deposit. Under a stay-with-family scenario, saving roughly £1,600 to £1,800 per month can put you in range within about 14 to 16 months, depending on actual expenses and consistency. Under a studio scenario, if savings fall to roughly £300 to £500 per month, the timeline can stretch to 4 to 7 years. A hybrid path, such as a house share or short-term co-living arrangements, can mitigate costs and reduce the timeline compared to renting solo. Next, we'll outline practical steps you can take if you choose to stay and optimize your well-being. If you decide to stay, start by defining a clear 12 to 24-month target and a specific savings goal, for example, £25,000. Agree with your family on a fixed contribution and shared responsibilities to reduce friction. Automate savings on payday into a high-yield account or ISA, and track spending weekly to ensure discipline. Invest modestly in comfort upgrades like dividers, curtains, a better mattress, or noise-canceling solutions. Establish boundaries and routines, such as quiet hours and shared space schedules. Finally, Conduct a monthly review to monitor progress and well-being. Next, we'll compare staying versus moving in a side-by-side view. On the left, staying with family typically enables a very high savings rate, often exceeding half of your take-home pay, which accelerates the timeline to a deposit, often within 12 to 18 months if disciplined. The trade-off is limited privacy and the need for clear boundaries and structure. The intangible benefits include additional time with family. The key risk is complacency, so setting a firm end date is critical. On the right, moving to a studio often reduces the savings rate dramatically and stretches the deposit timeline into years. The benefits are improved privacy and autonomy. However, the risk of lifestyle creep is real, so strong budgeting is essential. Now let's consider practical well-being strategies if staying feels difficult. To support well-being while staying, negotiate clear boundaries and quiet hours, and organize your space to reduce clutter. Create microzones for different activities, and implement a weekly reset routine to declutter and clean. Schedule regular time away from home in lower-cost environments like libraries, parks, or gyms to decompress. Invest in sleep quality with solutions such as blackout curtains or earplugs. Finally, maintain a visual countdown of your savings progress to keep motivation high. Next, let's test your understanding with a quick quiz. Question: if your primary goal is to build a £25,000 deposit as fast as possible, and you can tolerate crowded living for 12 to 18 months, which path is generally more effective? Options are: A. Move to a studio for peace and quiet. B. Stay with family on a defined timeline with strict savings automation. C. Split time between hotels and short lets. D. Delay saving until a pay raise arrives. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. Stay with family on a defined timeline with strict savings automation. Lower housing costs combined with disciplined saving typically accelerates deposit building. Next, let's do one more quick quiz to reinforce the trade-offs. Question: which tactic best mitigates the well-being cost of staying in a crowded home? Options are: A. No boundaries to avoid conflict. B. Investing in sleep and privacy upgrades like dividers and blackout curtains. C. Spending more on takeout to cope. D. Ignoring routines and schedules. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is B. Upgrades that improve sleep and privacy are cost-effective ways to make staying more sustainable in the short term. Now, to complement the numbers and decisions, we'll add one more diagram to visualize the savings mix. This pie chart illustrates a target allocation for someone maximizing savings while staying with family. The aim is to push savings above half of take-home pay, keep essentials lean and automated, and tightly manage discretionary spending to prevent lifestyle creep. Next, we'll consolidate everything into concrete key points. Key points include defining a clear time window and savings target, automating savings and establishing firm boundaries if you stay, accepting slower savings if you move while considering house shares as an intermediate option, reassessing every 6 months, and remembering to include the intangible value of family time in your decision. Next, we'll present a brief disclaimer. This content is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Your circumstances, market conditions, taxes, and lending criteria may differ significantly. Always verify numbers for your local area and consider consulting a qualified professional before making major financial decisions. With that in mind, let's move to the summary. In summary, staying with family can accelerate savings and shorten the path to a deposit, while moving out typically slows wealth building. A defined timeline and clear boundaries make staying more sustainable. Consider middle paths like house shares to balance space and savings. Finally, let's close with a thank you and a call to action. Thank you for watching. If this was helpful, please like the video, share it with someone who's deciding whether to stay or move, and subscribe for more practical finance content. In the comments, tell us your plan. Stay, move, or try a hybrid approach, and why. We look forward to hearing your thoughts.